Alright, my super fams, it's finally time for the most important question of every single patch once again, which is which character you should be pulling for in patch 3.7. Something that all of our Genshin players look forward to for every single patch, and this time around it's gonna be a full rerun patch, which is more or less a good thing because before we only had a maximum of 2 characters appearing in a single patch, but now since it's up to 4, any of you who are waiting for reruns has a better chance of getting for the character you wanted to save up. And the roster this time is really good, guys, which is why this is gonna be a fun video to be discussing. Now guys, talking about pulling for characters, again, if you are new to the channel, then I will be having a huge giveaway at 35,000 subscribers. It's gonna be a really good chance for you to get a lot of primo gems to pull for the character that you want. I really appreciate every one of you for supporting my channel. And so guys, let's just dive deep into the video. Now basically how the video will work is that I will first off talk about the most important point you need to remember of every of the character before you actually go ahead and decide to pull for them, right? And so first off, let's discuss about our boy Kazuha. Is definitely the most sought out character in this whole patch 3.7 because of course he is more or less a kind of must pull character in Genshin Impact. Of course there's no literally any character you have to pull, but he's a character that is always going to be there, make your life and your team a lot easier whether or not you play the Abyss or you play the overworld content. Kazuha has been on the rerun for a few times now, but this is the first time he is back after patch 3.0, which is Dendro reaction release. And even though we know that Anemo don't technically have any reaction towards Dendro itself, Kazuha is still a very valuable character when it comes to Dendro reaction teams, because here's the thing, he is still able to react and helps out your other elements character. And so for example, if you're using Aggravate or Spread, Kazuha can be a character that helps to enhance electro damage, not to mention the resistance shred that he's able to give from his 4-piece VV. If you're using him in Hyper Bloom, then yeah, electro and hydro character can benefit off of Kazuha, and in Mergent team, then yes, of course pyro and hydro character can still benefit. So overall guys, if you're thinking that Kazuha have lost his ability to support when it comes to Dendro reaction themes, that is not entirely true. He's still very valuable. And not just that guys, we already know that he has a lot of his potential when it comes to his raw ability, because he is one of the best sub DPS support character in the game by providing you a lot of elemental damage bonus, and his 4-piece Viridescent. He's also one of the best crowd controller in the game as well, just after Venti. But when it comes to crowd control, you're either going to be using Kazuha or Venti. He's also a pretty decent sub DPS for the team as well, because even though you're not going to be focused on his damage, most of the time we're going to be building EM onto Kazuha, therefore his burst is still going to be dealing decent damage for you over time. Not to mention it has access to AoE damage as well, so that is really good. It's very easy to build guys because you don't really need to invest into his weapon. The Iron Sting is a free to play weapon that any of you can craft, so that is pretty much covered. In terms of downside guys, Kazuha, you don't really have any much of a downside on him apart from the fact that he does require you to build a full EM set to make the most out of his build, which is something that many of the time is quite hard to come by when it comes to a 4-piece VV EM set, which took me actually almost 2 years to complete this set because oh my god, my luck with artifacts is such amazing. So that's the only thing you need to brace yourself out for, otherwise he's still an absolutely fantastic character and you would never be sad when having Kazuha on your account. Next up is gonna be our lovely Alhaitham. Nice to see Alhaitham has pretty early rerun, because in the past any of the newer release characters generally have an 1 year kind of rerun. So for Alhaitham fan out there, you don't really need to wait for too long. Now in terms of Alhaitham upside, he is a really good Dendro DPS. Many of the time he is compared as Kuching 2.0 because his E skill is quite similar to her. However guys, of course they are not basically related to each other, even though Alhaitham does have Dendro infusion similar to Kuching, but Alhaitham himself performance is very good. He also has access to some of the most optimal teams along in Genshin Impact, so generally speaking guys, you just slot him into a Dendro reaction team and he's going to be doing very well. He also has access to a few different playstyles as well. Either you want him to be a quick swap DPS or an on-field DPS, you can play him in both roles. overall. And since he also has access to Dendro Infusion, he is one of the best character in the game to be applying Dendro as well. Very easy to build him, guys, because you don't really need to invest a lot. You have a complete while performing Alhaitham at C0 with very good free-to-play weapons to be choosing from, because all up until now Hoyoverse has released a lot of sword weapon in different kind of events plus free-to-play options as well, so you can choose whichever that fits him best on your account. However, guys, Alhaitham do have some downside you need to look out for. Is that the biggest one is going to be his learning curve, one of the more challenging character to master, because you kind of need to learn his combo in order to use him optimally, since the goal is to have him deal as much damage as you can. And if you're having him on field, you're always gonna have to look out for how to have his infusion uptime as long as possible. His burst is also one of the more important part of his kit in order to deal damage. However, it does cost 70 energy, therefore sometimes you do have to look out for his energy recharge level, and since most of the time we're not going to be building him in energy recharge from his weapon or his artifacts, you want to rely on ER stats from your substats of your artifact. Next we have our Yoimiya. He's finally back once again. And Yoimiya, guys, of course you know that after Dendro have given a lot of buff to Electro, that goes for Yoimiya to be having a lot of buff as well. The most powerful thing when it comes to Yoimiya is definitely going to be her totem, because it has a very long uptime and very good AoE in terms of enemies targeting as well. Of course her totem or E skill don't actually do AoE damage, but it covers a lot of field range and help you target enemies within that range. Now I'm someone who actually uses Yoimiya a lot, and basically in every single one of my team, I have to say that she's an amazing character that feels a lot like a crowd controller for you as well, because the goal of crowd control is to group enemies together, while Yoimiya here, even though she doesn't literally crowd control, but the fact that her totem just targets such many enemies within the range, sometimes Yoimiya just kills off the enemies without you even realizing it. So having Yoimiya on the team, sometimes it feels like an AFK kind of style of gameplay, which is really easy to help you out. And since her totem have a uptime of 14 seconds, that is lovely for especially hyper carries character who love to stay on field for a long time. Now generally I don't really see anything too much of a downside to what Yoimiya. The only biggest one right now is that if you're only having a C0 Yoimiya, she's definitely in competition with Fischl at C6, because then C6 Fischl is going to be better than Yoimiya at C0. There have been many videos regarding this testing, so I don't really have time to actually cover too much into this. Also, her burst is one of the better part of her kit as well. However, she has the highest burst energy requirement in the game, which is 90, so most of the time I would just recommend you to neglect building her burst and especially just focus on her E skill, and then you can naturally just cast her burst once every 2 rotations, and that is still pretty much fine. But other than that, guys, C0 Yoimiya is very much a complete character and very easy to play, not to mention she's absolutely lovely with her attack and idle animation at the same time, which is very cute. And then lastly, we have our Queen of Festival, Yoimiya. Now of course, since we know that Pyro do have some reaction here and there with Dendro, Yoimiya of course technically do have a slight buff here and there. However, obviously not as much as she would see when it comes to Electro reactions. But guys, Yoimiya is still Yoimiya, and the thing that is good about her, she is still very good at. She's one of the best single target DPS in the game, because Yoimiya technically have no AoE damage and everything goes toward her single target damage. She's very easy to play, guys, because you only need to press a single normal attack button and you should delete your enemies pretty easily. Not to mention she is a bold character as well that ease up your gameplay a lot further, plus decent access to free to play weapon options as well as artifacts choice. Not to mention being a pyro character helps her slot into many different team comp that's powerful as well. So overall, Yoimiya is one of the easiest character to play in Genshin Impact if you're having a tough time learning the combos of the game. However, she does have some of her usual downsides that you need to look out for, because she's in very much a competition with other other DPS and sub DPS character, namely Hu Tao and Xiangling, not to mention other pyro character here and there. And of course, since we know that Yoimiya is a single targeted DPS character, her performance actually falls off quite a lot when you're in multi-target scenarios. If the enemies are quite low level and you can clear them out fast, then that's a fine thing. However, especially in the current abyss, where there are multiple enemies that are of high level and very tanky, having Yoimiya who have no access to AoE damage would just cost you a lot more time than when you're using other pyro character in AoE situations. One of the more important things is that she relies a lot on you finishing off her combo, so if she gets interrupted, which she easily can be, you're losing out on a lot of DPSs. So generally you want a shielder on Yoimiya's team, which is quite a big requirement to have. And so guys, that should sum up most of the important details across the 4 characters. I hope that I have already helped you have a better understanding and refresh your mind about the character. Now we're going to be answering the most important question of the video, which is which character you should be going for. And of course, this is going to be my personal experience and recommendation, guys. You can choose to follow it or not, but my aim is to give you the best advice and the advice that I would do myself if I had to choose one of these 4 characters. And so first off, it's definitely going to be Kazuha. If you haven't have him, then be sure to pull him at this point, unless you're someone who really don't like Kazuha as a character or his gameplay for some reason that you don't pull for him. But he should be on the top priority list in the character you have in your team, because even if you don't really decide to invest into the game too much, play off the meta, finishing off the abyss, but as long as you stick with Genshin Impact, guys, I feel that at some point you may want to tackle the abyss here and there, which is when you really want Kazuha as a character to help you out your team. So be sure to try and grab him right now. And then next off, guys, is going to be Alhaitham. The reason why Alhaitham is really high on this list is because he's a newer character who only has his rerun for the first time, plus he's one of the better DPS that you've got in the game right now, and he is Dendro characters as well. As long as you have good team build for him, you should be able to clear most of the content using Alhaitham. The only downside we've discussed is that he's got a very high learning curve, so you do want to practice him here and there, but other than that, it's going to be a very valuable character to have on the team. After that is going to be Yoimiya. The reason why she's on 3rd place, usually you know that I recommend sub DPS more than DPS character, is that if you're only going to be pulling for C0 Yoimiya, guys, and you've already got C6 Fischl, then I just recommend you to stick with C6 Fischl when it comes to the meta. Unless you really love Yoimiya as a character, then yeah, sure, good luck on pulling for Yai, because I myself love using her, and we've already discussed her main strong point, so she's going to be a very good addition when it comes to your team build. Finally is going to be Yoimiya. She's technically going to be a preference character for you to pull at this point, because we've already have a lot of good pyro DPSs. So when it comes to you considering the meta, most of us won't be going for Yoimiya. However, she's really fun to play, guys. She's really cute, have really good attack animation, and of course having her on your account, using her in the overworld, and you will feel like she's going to be able to cheer you up here and there when you're experiencing a bad day. I know that in patch 3.7 there's going to be a lot of decision for you guys to make, especially if you haven't got 4 of these characters on your account. As we've discussed, these 4 characters are some of the better characters in Genshin Impact. They really have good performance. So I hope that this video have been able to help you make a better choice in terms of deciding which character for you to go for. If you have any question, guys, feel free to leave a question down below, and me or some of the other lovely Genshin players will help you out. Again, if you are new to the channel, guys, don't forget to subscribe, as there will be a huge giveaway once our channel hits 35,000 subs, and that might actually be within this patch to help you out your pools, guys. So if you're wondering how many primo gems you'll be able to get in patch 3.7, I have a really in-depth video going through that for you, so be sure to check out the video right after this. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me till this part of the video, guys, and with that I wish you a super day, and I will catch you on my next video.